Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome I bid to everyone who's watching this video, especially to Madam Vani. And in this video, I will be presenting or reviewing the presentation of case study, the previous case study that was done in Taswan. And in this video, we will be reviewing the analysis of child A development in his language development through bilingualism. So without further ado, we will start with the introduction of the slide, in which is the front page, which is task 2, presentation of case study Tslb 3293, children and language, presented by Adam Hikimi bin Muhammad Azhar. So the first part of the presentation is that the agenda in which what I will be presenting. The first one is the overview of the case study, the abstract, introduction, case background, problem statement, analysis of the case, finding and discussion, recommendation, conclusion, and at the end of the video, I will be attaching some appendices. For instances, the footage of the interview and some of the dialogue that will be related to my presentation today. So without further ado, let's move on to the abstract. The abstract for my case study is that this case study examined the English learning journey of a 10-year-old bilingual student, which I subjected as child A, who speak mostly Malay and English. Mostly Malay because this child is from a rural area in Kedah. Basically, in Kedah there is many rural area, and I chose child A as the subject because he is my cousin and he lives near to my village. So he'll be a perfect candidate for me to test his English learning development while being in a rural area, but he was showing a great effort in learning English. So it highlights how bilingualism and daily social interaction support language learning. The study applies key theories like Krashen input hypothesis, Swain output hypothesis, Long's interaction hypothesis, and Vygotsky ZPD zone proximal development to understand factors such as language transfers, interference, and translanguaging. A qualitative approach was used to explore the challenges, strengths, and strategies in child's A learning progress. So like I mentioned, I will be highlighting key theories that apply towards child's A language development process through the theory of Swain output hypothesis, Krashen input hypothesis, Long interaction hypothesis, and Vygotsky view of the ZPD to understand how my cousin or child A able to learn English effectively. So moving on, the introduction. During my case study, the first part of my case study, I introduced how language learning in the 21st century is a center part toward human development, is the key toward human development, especially in communication and education. And through this understanding, I create a viewpoint that it supports how people connect through language with bilingualism and multilingualism, helping individual interact across different background. And then I cited Mukhtarovna in his paper that learning language is more than speaking. It is about using it in daily life. So by setting this narrative of introduction, and then I relate to my cousin English language learning journey by saying that in school, especially in primary school, because in IPG I will be teaching primary school, the process of learning language is easier, and it relate back to the idea of human development. Human must interact with one another through social interaction, so that they will learn language efficiently and more fluently through social interaction. And when they learn in school, especially in the age of primary learner, it will become more easier as this aspect or this category of age tend to be more open and tend to be more easier for them to learn. So with this understanding, we can conclude that for primary school learner, the stage of primary learning is crucial as they develop both English and their first language in Malaysia, which is Malay, at home and school, and it shapes how students learn English bilingually or multilingually through student experience, both challenges and through benefit of learning. So students learn better through challenges in learning language while learning it through bilingualism method or multilingualism methods, in which I state that in the case of child A, he primarily speak Malay with his friend and family, because in a rural area setting, they most likely not to interact with the English language because it's not their first primary language, and English is seen as a taboo language there, and is a language that only used in the form of school learning or subject that we learn at school, not as a way to communicate daily in a daily interaction. And the stigma toward the English language for who speak in English around my village is considered to be arrogant, or considered to be more lean towards flexing or arrogancy, showing that you are more knowledgeable than others. So that's the stigma regarding my village and Child's A village in our area, because it is in a rural area. So I will then cite Costley and Garafa, who note that multilingualism help in learning other language. More study are needed on this. And how we see student learns language effectively to the development of linguistic, cognitive, and social factor is a crucial part, especially in my case study of analyzing child A, because he learned through his way of thinking, which is cognitive, and then his language skill, the linguistic, and then the interaction with his teachers, peers, and family. In that is social factors. So moving on to 2.0, case background. So I will introduce Child's A background first. He is a 10-year-old bilingual learner, proficient in both Malay and English. He attend a rural school where exposure toward English is limited, yet he managed to learn the language effectively through various means. So then, the primary language that he used, like I stated before, is at home and school. He primarily communicate in Malay. It is his dominant language and it is his native language. The dominant language in his environment, most of his interaction with family and peers are in Malay, which serve as his primary medium of communication. However, Child A demonstrate a high interest in English learning. Despite limited formal exposure to English, Child A has developed a strong interest in the language through engaging various English language material such as book, video game, and television show. These resources have played a crucial role in his English language learning journey. So, while learning English might be challenging for him at school because the exposure toward the English language material at school might be limited, and the exposure toward the learning style also might be different from people who are in urban area. Child A demonstrate a high interest in learning English through his action with his gadget such as telephone and television at home. He oftentimes demonstrate a high interest in English while engaging with game such as PUBG and Mobile Legend, because the game that he played there uses the English language as a form of interaction with him. So he oftentimes try to learn English through that medium. He also reads some book, but oftentimes it is also hard for him to grasp the concept and the meaning of word in certain books. So he just stick to easier books such as comic book with limited vocabulary and minimal words, complex sentence. So when using this kind of medium or material to learn, he was able to showcase a quite interest in learning the language, but also he might also face challenges that are not his fault, but he able to polish it well if he's keep learning and learning. So we move on to case background. The first point that I made through this case study is that effective learning through interaction. Child's ability to pick up English efficiently is largely due to the interactive nature of this material. Like I state, video game, television, books, and movies. He oftentimes also like to watch English movies such as Marvel movies and the DC movies, the superhero action movies. There are also some Japanese movie that use English dub. He also enjoy that. So through this material, his exposure to authentic English content has allowed him to adapt and understand the language more naturally, which he then applies in the classroom setting. He like to share with his classmate how he learned English through the medium that I stated. For instance, he watches the Avenger movie. He would talk to his friend about the character and the storyline in which he had seen. For instance, he would tell his friend about how Iron Man is strong, and he would use this minimal vocabulary such as good, bad, good guy, bad guy, and then he would often also highlight words that are more complicated, more complex, but he was able to use that word. For instance, blast and power. That kind of word for his level, in primary level, is considered to be, I think, high. So when he was able to use it in a sentence in explaining that to his friend, that indicate and showcase his ability to use the English language and interest in learning English efficiently. This then highlight the second point of my case study, which is classroom application. In class, Child A demonstrates his proficiency by using English in both structured lesson and informal interaction. His ability to navigate between languages, especially using English subject outside of English lesson, showcase his adaptability and the effectiveness of his learning approach. So, like I mentioned, his ability in using English in describing the various medium that he had learned to his friend and teachers showcase his ability to learn English and to use the English language as a medium of interaction, even though it is limited, but he was able to learn efficiently and interacting with his friend and peers through this medium. So this is very impressive and amazing for me to see Child's ability in learning efficiently. Next one is problem statement 3.0. Child A faces multiple challenges in his language development primarily due to limited community support. What I meant by this is that, like I stated in the earlier part of the video, we both live in a rural area. So the access to the English language, or people who are able to fluently speak English, are very limited, because most of them view English as a language that is used only as a medium of learning in school as a subject, and not a language that is used in a daily interaction, and it's not needed in the context of rural area where Charles A and I live at. So while he was managed to use available material like game and social media to enhance his English skill, these resources are often unreliable and are not designed for structured learning. This has led to inconsistency in his understanding of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation, making it difficult for him to differentiate between correct and incorrect language use. Additionally, the lack of reliable learning resources has hindered his overall progress. So this is one of our concern in the case study, because even though using English movie, game, social media, gadget, all of that as a form of learning, we still faces problems such as game oftentimes use a very vulgar language and sometimes incorrect language use, which may hinder his understanding towards the language even more. And there are sometimes materials from the social media that are just incorrect and might needed more explanation for him to be able to understand even more. So this is a very major problem for me in the study, because there's some part in the study where I asked him, do you think this is true, even though the language used in that game or in that movie seems to be incorrect. He would often say, I don't know, and I don't know how to explain, how to tell you if it's true or not. So this is one of the problem, because he wouldn't be able to learn efficiently, and he wouldn't be able to learn that much if he just know how to speak but cannot understand the language. It is a very big problem. So that's the first problem, which is limited community support and actual resource that are needed to learn. So his parents also support him to speak English, but at the same time, people around him, for instance his peer and classmate, doesn't have that eagerness to learn as him. So when there are a group of people that don't really want to learn English, it may hinder his eagerness and his interest in learning the language. So community support and limited resource is one of the problem, two of the problem. Next one is another major issue is the absence of authentic English speaking environment in his rural community. Like I said, I want to emphasize on this. English is often seen as a subject to be studied at school, rather than a tool for daily communication. This social norm restricts Child A exposure to real-world English usage, limiting opportunities to practice and internalize the language naturally. The lack of community engagement in supporting English learner further impact his language acquisition, making it harder for him to fully develop his bilingual skill. This is what I stated just now. The community support is just not there. When it is not there, his eagerness to learn may drop, and the interest for him to keep on going learning, even though he enjoy all of the resource, may also vanish out of thin air, because there is no people who really push him beside his parent and his teacher. So the authenticity of people who really speak English in the area is very minimal. Moving on. So here I put I analyze the SWOT, strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat of the case study. The first one is strength. I noted that Child A demonstrate high capability in managing his learning effectively via through online materials. The second one is that his understanding that learning language is easier through bilingualism is true, because he often would just translate word from Malay to English while learning through book, movie, and so on. The final one is showcase effort in learning new word. For instance, while he playing game or while he's reading book, there's some word that he might not understand, and he would often Google it directly. For instance, the words explosion, he doesn't know because it's quite complicated for his age. So he would write it down and then he would translate it. So explosion, and even he would get the Malay word for that, so he would be able to understand through bilingualism learning. There's also a direct translate from Malay word to English word, because his hobby is fishing. So he doesn't know what fishing is. So he used the Malay word for fishing, which is memancing, to translate that into English. So when he put memancing in Google Translate, the result will show fishing. So that's is also one of the strength of his learning style, and thus helping him learning English better through bilingualism. Let's focus on opportunities next. So the opportunities of child A is that he demonstrates a very high level of interest interacting with people who are willing to communicate in English. For instance, while I'm approaching him to ask him about can I interview you in English, he seems very excited and very willing to do it, even though it might seem hard for him at first. But he is showing a high level of interest in helping me in my case study, and he also very enjoyed the English subject at his school. So that is one of the reason why that is the opportunities part of the SWOT analysis. The second one is willing to learn tirelessly, as it is his passion to learn English, like I stated just now. We move on to the bad part or the negative part, which is the weaknesses. The weaknesses of Charles A learning English learning journey is that he mainly faces problem in grammatical use, vocabulary understanding, and pronunciation. It is quite normal for child at this age and student at this age, because even though they might show eagerness to learn, the concept and the foundation of the understanding on the English language is still very weak. So, and oftentimes he's still using Malay as a medium of interaction when things gets very confusing. So he will resort back to Malay when he wasn't able to speak that well and cannot understand the overall sentence and the overall communication during the phase. For instance, in the interview, I asked a very complex question and he wouldn't be able to answer. He just straight up used Malay, and he will resort back to Malay because he didn't understand. So the threats for child A is that the community surrounding him viewed English as a subject that learned at school and not needed in daily interaction, like I just stated just now. And then we have limited real-life application of what he has learned, which may lead to losing interest in learning. Yes, so the real-life application is minimal, so the interaction is not really there, and he has no one to really speak English with. He's just there to play game and only use English in game and in searching movie and so on. So there's no real-life application in that. Moving on is the second language acquisition SLA theory. The second language acquisition theory, SLA, refers to the process of learning a language that is not one native tongue. It involves key areas of cognitive, social, and linguistic development. One theory related to this is the Vygotsky sociocultural theory and the zone of proximal development ZPD. Vygotsky 1987 argued that language learning happens through social interaction where learners are supported by teachers or peers. This support or scaffolding help learners bridge the gap between what they can do on their own and what they can achieve with help. ZPD is important in language learning as it focuses on interaction, mediation, and guided assistance. Quoted from Al-Sadi 2021. So in this case, the SLA theory, through the analysis of child A, in the case study, I can see that, and I can say that child A learn better through people, because when the teachers, the only passionate person in guiding him English, he was able to mimic and he was able to use the language or the sentence that the teacher told him at school and repeated the same sentence to me in a very structured manner and in a correct manner. So I think the scaffolding process applied to child A when he was in school. When outside of school, there is no system of support there, and there's no really interaction that happen in English. So the scaffolding process through Vygotsky theory can only be seen in school through his teachers while learning the English language. There are also some subject that he may learn some English word through the concepts such as mathematics and science. and he will ask the English teacher to explain to him what's the words mean, and the scaffolding process is also there. Moving on is the acquisition learning hypothesis. So beside Vygotsky theory, Krashen input hypothesis 1982 and Swain output hypothesis 1985 are a key understanding to second language learning. Krashen emphasized that learner acquire language best when exposed to slightly advanced input I+1. Swain, however, argued that actively producing language through speaking and writing outputs is just as important as receiving input. Long interaction also stressed the role of social interaction in language development. Combining both comprehensible input and meaningful output is an essential for effective language learning, especially in primary education. So what this part of the case study, what I can summarize to really ease up the statement here is that Swain said that language learning is better through advanced input, meaning that when you learn something and you add something to learn about the previous thing, it is easier. So for instance, if in Charles A case, he learns English, he also learned Malay. So if we stack that up together and he learned it through bilingualism, it is easier for him to learn because he would just what is this in Malay, what is this English, it's keep on going. So when it's keep on going, the learning process through acquisition learning hypothesis is taken place, and this theory is true and aligned with Charles A analysis, my analysis on Charles A. So the second one is Swain, who argued that producing language through speaking and writing is also important because it is the output part. The previous theory by Swain, by Krashen, focuses on input, but Swain viewed it as output, as speaking and writing can polish the skill of English language. For instance, in the case of Charles A, when learning through writing down information or speaking in English, it helped him to learn even more because he actively use English and actively interact in English language, and writing down English sentences, it helped him to learn even better. So lastly is the Long's interaction hypothesis, the role of social interaction in language development. Like I stated before, there's minimal interaction, but there is an interaction between Charles A and his teacher. So the theory is also correct because he shows interest and passion in learning, and he was able to learn effectively through his teachers at school. So we move on to the next point, which is 4.4 analysis on Charles A SLA. Through all of this theory, I put out 3 major points in this presentation. The first one, strong motivation and social engagement. Charles A showed a high level of interest in learning English, especially through digital material, which he enjoys sharing with his peers and teachers. This reflects a strong intrinsic motivation and a willingness to engage socially in the learning process, aligning with the idea that language learning is the most effective when it involves meaningful interaction. Second one, balanced use of input and output for language development. Consistent with theories by Krashen and Swain, Charles A benefit from both comprehensible input and meaningful output. He gained understanding through digital exposure and strengthened his language skill by actively using English in conversation and activities. This balance helped him improve fluency and confidence in using the English language. The last point, analysis on Charles A SLA. The last point is that independent learning will support an effort to overcome challenge. Based on Vygotsky concept of the zone of proximal development, Child A is capable of learning independently while receiving minimal guidance from adults and collaborating with peers. Although he faces some difficulty with grammar, pronunciation, and code switching, he put in effort to manage these challenges and use digital media and teacher support to improve consistently. So that is his effort in learning the English language, and this is my analysis on that part, which is 3 main points. The first one is Strong motivation and social engagement. The second one, balanced use of input and output for language development. And lastly, independent learning with support and effort to overcome challenges. Moving on. So here's the finding and discussion that we able to argue in this presentation. The first one is that he demonstrated multilingual learning ability. Child A effectively learned English alongside his native language using strategies like language transfer, translanguaging, and managing linguistic interference. This shows that young learners can develop bilingual or multilingual skill even at the primary level. Through Child A, the finding that I can conclude is that young learners can develop bilingual or multilingual skill even at the primary level, and they learn better at that level. So next one is cognitive strength in language processing. Child A showed the ability to switch between languages and understanding linguistic differences, reflecting strong cognitive flexibility. This support Mahzun 2022 in his paper that view learning multiple languages strengthen brain function and language awareness. That is one of the citation in the case study in which I cited. So by analyzing Child A, this citation is aligned and true, which I can state in this finding of presentation. So the next one is high intrinsic motivation and passion. Despite living in rural area, Child A shows strong personal interest and passion. His motivation stands out, especially when compared to his peers and community who may not value English learning as much. And the next one is challenges. Due to environment and at home and support, limited English use in the rural community and at home poses challenges for Child A language development. His parents struggle to support him fully due to not being fluent in English themselves. Yes, that is one of the reasons because they live in a rural area. So the last one is support from teacher is crucial. It's very crucial. Child A relies heavily on his teacher for interactive, engaging, and learning experiences. The teacher's role goes beyond delivering lesson. They provide consistent support that help maintain his progress and confidence in English. So the teachers must play a major role in this to help with his English language learning journey, because in rural area, the teachers is only the one authentic English speaker who use English in his daily life because he is an English teacher. So the last one, recommendation. Not the last one, the second last one, recommendation. Use engaging and fun learning methods. So at school, this may help teachers. Teachers can incorporate activities like singing, storytelling, role-playing, and group discussion to make English learning more enjoyable and interactive. So teachers, when they use activities like this, not only Child A will be interested more, all of the students, all of his peers, and the learning process will be more towards the interesting part and more enjoyable part beside using just textbook oriented learning. So the second one is promote school-wide English program and digital integration. School event is a major one in this. School event like English Week, language-based program can boost student interest and shift community perception of English. The PIBG play an important role in this, because when we get together as a community and actually support an English learning event at school, for instance the English Week or program, the community will get together and they will start to understand the importance of using English in daily interaction, thus helping Child A and all of his peers to learn English effectively. Lastly, strengthen home-school community collaboration. Not home school, I mean the interaction between home, school, and community. So it encourages stronger partnership between parents, teachers, and the community to support English learning both in and outside of school. It advocates for a mindset shift where English is seen as a tool for communication, not just a subject to memorize. So we must change. We must change the community first in order for us to succeed in helping Child A or student like Child A to learn English effectively. So with that, I conclude my case study. So the conclusion for the case study is that this case study highlight how child a bilingual primary student, learn English through both input and output, supported by theories like I stated, which is from Krashen, Swain, and Vygotsky. Despite facing challenges like limited resources and community support, child A able to show a strong motivation, especially in peer learning. And the study of this presentation, or the result of this presentation, stresses the importance of continued support from parents, teachers, and the community. A call for a shift from rote learning to using English as a real communication tool is a must. So we must change for the better, and we must get together, especially in rural area, for us to be able to learn English and viewed English as a serious medium of interaction, and not only as a medium that we learn only as a subject in school. Because there's people like Charles A, there's students like Charles A who are willing to learn and show passion in learning English that might help him to further be successful in life through learning English. That's all from me. I will include and attach the appendices, which is the interview, right after this video ended. Thank you so much to everyone who's watching, and thank you so much to Madam Vani for giving me this opportunity in presenting the slide presentation, and also in doing showcase to my cousin, which is child A, for me to understand even more the importance of learning English through bilingualism and multilingualism, especially in rural area, because it's really opened my eye to how people learn English as a second language. Thank you. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I be to Madam Ghani. I'm Adam Hakimi bin Hamazar. Today I will be interviewing my cousin, which is a standard 3 student from SK Kampung Bula, and I will ask him about a question and a multiple question regarding the effect of multilingualism and bilingualism in his English learning journey. So we shall proceed. First, Aika, introduce yourself to the camera.
Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. My name is Haikal Hakimi bin Abdul Hadi Hakimi. I am from Standard 3 SK Kampung Lam.
Okay, Haikal. So for the first question, I would like to ask, how many language do you speak?
I know 4 language.
Yes.
Malay, Indo, English, and Arabic.
So you know 4 language, Haikal?
Yes.
That is so amazing. Okay, thank you, Haikal. So for the second question, I would like, out of all the language you learn, what is your favorite language?
Malay, because is my language.
Yes. Okay, Haikal, for the third question, I would like to ask, why do you like English and how do you learn English?
I like English
Yes.
because my sir.
Okay.
I learn from movie, game,
Yes.
book,
Yes.
and book.
And books. Alright. Okay, Haikal. For the fourth question, can you teach me your favorite word? Your favorite word in Malay, and what does it mean?
I like fishing in Malay.
Yes.
Memancing.
Yes. What fish do you mancing?
I fish
Yes.
puyuh,
Yes.
haruan,
Huh?
and keli.
Oh, you do it every day? Yes, so fishing is?
Mancing.
And you like? Memancing.
Mancing.
Okay. Alright, for the next question, Haikal. Imagine if someone lost in another country, like Indonesia, Turkey, or Afghanistan. Why would they use English? Why English is the language?
English is worldwide.
Yes.
Everyone know English.
So everyone speak English, right? Not only in Malaysia. English is
It's good.
alright. So Haikal, this is the last question. Have you ever mixed two language such as Malay and English in one sentence? And how does it sound like?
Yes.
It sounded like
It
what?
sound like this.
Okay.
Bro, jom pergi makan.
Oh, bro, draft?
Bro, drive. Pergi makan.
Oh, okay, understand. So you mix language? Yes. Okay.